Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Mind, Money, Soul. And today I'm going to talk about the 3 mindset shifts or mindsets that you need to have to be a successful investor. Now, as we know, I love mindset stuff and I'm a big believer that your mindset is the foundation for everything that you do in life. And that especially comes to play when you are building wealth and when you're investing and when you are looking to grow your money. Your mindset is far more important than a lot of things. Obviously not how much you're investing, but your mindset is a huge part of that. So let's get into the 3 different mindsets that you need to have to become a successful investor. Number 1, do not rush something that needs time. Patience and consistency is the recipe for success when it comes to investing. Now, what happens when you try and scale something bigger, quicker, faster than it should be? Things don't go to plan. Everything in life has a most convenient size, a most convenient way of doing things, and you can scale it outside of that, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the best way to do it. It doesn't mean that it's going to still operate in the same efficiency. And this happens with investing. Now, when I tell people about investing, about what it is, about compound interest, building wealth, growing your money, all of that good stuff, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I always have people ask me, but how do I do it quicker? And I'm like, baby boo, no, this isn't about doing it quicker, because compound interest, one of the key ingredients is time. It has to have time to do it in the way where I'm talking about when you invest in the stock market and you are investing and building wealth for the long term and you're making your money from compound interest, which means to essentially have interest on your interest, so that the value of your assets is going up. It's basically like free money. You need time. Now, if you want to really learn how to like sell and buy stocks in themselves, that's something you can absolutely go and do. But long-term investing and building wealth takes time. For example, if you are trying to bake a cake and you're like, yo, I need this cake to be built in 10 minutes, baked in 10 minutes, and you get all the ingredients out, you got the flour, you got the eggs, you got the butter, you got the milk, you whip it all together and it says put it in the oven at 180 for 30 minutes, but you're like, I need this cake quicker, so I'm going to whack the heating up to 250 and then I'm just going to pop it in for 10 minutes and hope that it does the same thing. What's going to happen? You're going to have a slushy cake. It's going to be hard on the outside, all charred and burnt, and on the inside it's going to be gooey, mushy cake mixture. Why? Because that is not how you do it. You cannot speed up that process and expect the same outcome. And this is the same for investing. Now, the book I'm reading at the moment, Same as Ever by Housel, is so good. He talks about this concept of scaling, and he basically says he talked about the world's largest man. I think when he died at like 22, he was about 9 foot, which is crazy, right? And if you looked in like comic books, he would have been seen as like a superhero. He was like 9 foot tall, his hands were like a foot long, he was massive. But the problem is, humans aren't built to be that size. So he basically had something in his pituitary gland in his brain, which basically didn't, it caused the hormone that makes us grow to just continue being released. There was no kind of like shut off point. So he just kept growing and growing and growing. But the sad thing is, he couldn't stand unassisted. He had to walk with a cane. He had loads of health problems. His joints couldn't take it. His heart was under pressure so much because it had to pump so much blood to such far places. Humans have a most convenient size, which on Earth realistically is like between 4 foot and 8 foot, right? If we're looking at average people. Anything outside of that is way too big. I mean, I don't even know if 8 foot seems too big. Maybe 4 foot and 7 foot. Anyway, you get the point. As things scale and get bigger, it does not mean they're still going to work and function in the same way. So if you try and do something quicker, if you try and do something in a different way to it's kind of meant to be done, it's not going to go in your favor. And this applies to investing. Now, Warren Buffett said, no matter how great the talent or efforts, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. Right? You cannot pick and choose what part of the process you want. You can't just pick the good part and leave out the annoying, boring part. You cannot just pick getting loads of free money from your compound interest, from your investments in your stock market, without leaving it there for time to make it grow. And when you, like, you know, we lose this example of thinking, like, when you think about someone in life, you cannot isolate one part without the other. If you look at someone and they have a business and they're making money and they're successful and they're living the lifestyle that you want, you cannot have that part of their life without taking into account what preceded it. What did they sacrifice? What did they compromise? What did they have to give up? How much of their time did they have to give up to make their business grow? What did they have to not buy in order to have that wealth? You cannot have the good part without the bad part. And I say good and bad, neither is good and bad, it's all part of the process, but your brain is perceiving it as good and bad. More money from investing, good. Leaving it in there to grow for years, bad. Like, that's not how it works. We have to take everything all into account. So do not try and rush something that needs time. That is investing. Okay, number 2 is know that the biggest risk of all is taking no risk at all. If you have a low risk profile, that's absolutely fine. But if you are literally taking no risk, that is risky in itself. Now, first off, my question to you would be, how do you know what your risk profile is? Like, have you really sat and asked yourself those questions? What are you basing it off of? Or are you allowing society to tell you what your risk should actually be? Now, if you are a woman, society tells you that you shouldn't take risk, that you're not risky, that you don't like risk, that investing isn't for you. And these subliminal messages have been embedded in us and pushed, this narrative has been pushed through articles and the media since we were born. So it's no wonder if you're a woman and you're like, I don't like risk, or I'm scared of risk. Totally get that. But that being said, it's really important to think about and understand your own risk profile, but also the risk involved with different things. Now, yes, investing has risk. Your capital is at risk. But whether we class it as risky is another story, because long-term investing and building wealth in index funds and using proven methods and strategies that have worked for years technically isn't risky in quote unquote terms. It has risk, but it's not risky. Day trading, buying, selling stocks, trying to make a really big profit, risky. With long-term investing, you can mitigate and reduce your risk by understanding how it works, understanding what you're getting yourself into, understanding how compound interest works, and also being consistent. All of those things help you reduce your risk whilst maximizing your profit and your outcome and your ROI. So this is why understanding it is so important. And if you have synonymized investing with risk and saving with safety, girl, we need to shift this mindset. So when you leave your money in cash, in saving, okay, you're like, yay, I can see my money, I can see my cash, I can see the numbers in the bank. That's great. You might have direct access to it and you can see it, but inflation is eating away at the buying power of that money. So the risk is that you are spending all this time swapping your time for money, for cash, to hold on to it in cash just so that you can see it, but that is then being eaten into, which in itself is risky because your money means less. It has less buying power. So one thing we cannot get back is time. Time is the most valuable asset we all have. You cannot use money to buy you more time. Your time is your most valuable asset. So I want to just give you this example, right? If you are a 9-to-5er and you're taking home £50,000 and you work about that would mean you work about 1,856 hours per year, and you're being paid, or you're taking home of that about £27 per hour. We're going to ignore all of the tax part of it because it makes the equation simpler. Now, if you manage to save out of your paycheck £5,000 per working year, this would mean you have spent 185 of your years directly, that time is going directly towards saving for the future. So 185 hours of your time is money that you then put towards your future. So if you've spent 185 hours saving that £5,000, but inflation was eating your money at 2% every year, in 10 years time, that £5,000 would only be worth about £4,100. So it means you've lost about £900 by having it sat there in cash. So that is about 33 hours worth of your time. So essentially, you'd worked, out of that 185 hours you'd spent working, 33 of those hours have been lost to inflation. They've been an absolute waste of time. You might as well not have worked them because you don't have access to that buying power anymore. So it's absolutely a waste of time. Could have been doing something you loved. Now, if you invested £5,000 per working year with an 8% return, so you invested into the stock market, you would have £11,000 from your initial £5,000. So that means you've gained about £6,000 in interest. So it basically means that those 185 hours that you spent working, you managed to take your hourly rate from £27 to £59 an hour. So essentially you doubled what your time was worth over those 10 years. Your valuable time gained value by investing instead of saving. Now in the second example, I didn't take into account inflation, so we could reduce the amount a little bit, but you get my point. If you are right now swapping your time for money, and then you're saving that money and you're holding on to it in cash, that time that you've spent getting that money, some of that time is wasted. But if you spend your time getting cash and you invest that cash, you are growing that money, you're making it work harder for you, you're maximizing that potential, and the time that you spent working towards getting that cash has been valued even higher. It's even more valuable. So hopefully that example makes sense. But basically our mind is just trying to protect us from the unknown. Totally get that, but it doesn't help anybody, okay? In life there are unknowns. We have to jump into the unknowns, and it's really important to acknowledge where your mind is just protecting you or when something is actually scary and not worth it. And we get scared because of the potential risk of negative outcomes or money loss. And while saving might feel like it is providing you with financial stability, taking no risk at all is going to limit your ability to build wealth and limit your long-term financial growth. So this is why taking no risk is risky. Okay, and then the number 3 is having an abundance mindset and seeing and investing as an opportunity to create your dream life. Okay, that is a mindset that you have to have as an investor. Now, to create your dream life, you need to be investing. Now, when I talk to clients and I say, tell me about your dream life, what does it look like? And they're like, oh, I just want to have a nice life. I just want to have a nice job. I just want to be comfortable. I just want to be stable. I say, okay, dream bigger. You were not just put on this earth just to pay your bills and have a cushy little life. Now, obviously, comfort and stability and security is so important, but what do you really want? What does your heart really desire? What do you really value? What goals do you really have? And if you're ever like, no, I can't afford that, you need to stop thinking in terms of cash. You've got to start thinking in terms of investments and opportunities. When you're thinking just in cash, you're always thinking about how you're swapping your time to make money and then using that money to live your life. But nobody ever got rich just from saving. You have to think about the power of holding on to assets and the power of letting your money work for you, so that over time you can stop swapping your time for money and you can start utilizing the money that your money has made you, which is what investing does. Now, think about it like this. Imagine if you went to the supermarket and you did your weekly shop, and you bought all your veg, and you come home, you cook it, you eat it, lovely. You batch cook it. So some's gone in the fridge, some's gone in your belly, fine. Throughout the week, you are eating that food. But it gets to the end of the week, some of those vegetables have rotted and they've gone nasty in the back of the fridge, so you've got to chuck them away. So you went to work, you made money, you bought your veg with that money, you've enjoyed some of it, and then some of it's rotted and it's gone in the bin. Okay, you would have to repeat that, and you just keep repeating that process. That's what it's like when you are just saving. Now, if you're investing, right, and you're growing your assets, it would be like going to the shop, buying food. Maybe you buy the slightly more expensive food, so you're spending a bit more. You do all the same process. You come home, you batch the food, you cook it, you batch it. But you also take some of that food, you take the plants, the seeds, and you plant it in your back garden, and you start making your own little food garden. You repeat the process. So it's costing you a little bit more each month, but every single month you are adding to your garden, you're planting, you're seeding, things are growing, okay? Now over time, this helps you become self-sufficient, because at some point, even if it's 10 or 20 years down the line, that garden is going to be overflowing and growing and providing you with the vegetables to eat. So you no longer have to go to work to make money, to have the cash, to go to the supermarket to buy the veg, because you look in your garden and the veg is right there. You are now self-sufficient. This is what it's like investing. You're taking some of your money, and it might cost you a little bit more every month so that you can spend, save, and invest, but you're putting some of that money and you're planting it as a seed so that 10, 20, 30 years down the line, you are self-sufficient. That is what it means to be financially independent. You're growing your own veg, baby. It's kind of like growing your own money, basically. Making your own little money garden. And this is the difference between saving and investing. This is why it's important. And people that invest, people that are financially independent, people that build wealth, they think like that. They think about the long-term goals and putting their money to work. So, hope you found that episode interesting, I want to let you know that I am hosting a free masterclass on the 27th of August, Tuesday. It's going to cover loads of stuff. It's going to talk about why we invest, it's going to debunk some investing myths, and it's going to talk about the 4 steps to actually get started investing so you can start growing your own money. You can sign up free from the link in my bio, or the link in my show notes, not my bio. And I really hope to see you there live. There's going to be a really fun live element, so do come along live if you can. But if not, there is going to be a recording sent out after as a replay. Amazing. Love you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you found this episode interesting and insightful, and I will see you all next week. Mwah!